Zee Leadership Series.
My next speaker embodies the spirit of instinctive judgment, preparedness, presence of mind, and above all, true courage. Real-life heroes are rare and are people like Captain Phillips. He was not trained to be a soldier. He was not trained to face an armed, hostile attack or be in a hostage situation. But as you saw in the brief trailer, when the Maersk Alabama was hijacked by Somali pirates in April 2009, Richard Phillips rose far and beyond the call of duty, both emotionally and in what he had to do. His is a story of bravery, of sacrifice, and eventual triumph. In his talk today, he will share with us what it takes for ordinary people to show leadership of the most extraordinary kind. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Captain Richard Phillips.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Just want to make sure everybody can hear me out there. Thank you for those kind words. It's very wonderful to come to Mumbai again, especially by plane. It's a lot more comfortable than by boat. It was hot. I was nervous. Heck, I was scared during the entire time. I was worried. I really didn't know how it was all going to turn out. But enough about my wedding day. Let's get to what you brought me here to discuss. For many of those who choose a career at sea, it's a legacy handed down from generation to generation, from grandfather to father to son or daughter. For me, it started not on a ship, but rather in a cab. In our time together today, I get to share with you an extraordinary experience that affected my life, and we can look at some of the things that I learned that can help us personally and professionally. But first, let me give you a little bit about my background. When I graduated high school in 1973 in Winchester, Massachusetts, I wasn't like a lot of kids who knew exactly what they wanted to do. I just knew I wasn't going to start another September in a classroom, so much to the chagrin of my parents, who were both teachers. I took a variety of different jobs. One of them was driving a cab in Arlington, Massachusetts. And one day, I'm driving back from Logan Airport in Chelsea, not the best neighborhood. I learned that because I eventually lived there. But I'm driving back, and this guy hails me over in the cab, and he's wearing a leather coat, collared, button-down shirt, shine leather shoes, and pressed dungarees, which impressed me in 1975. So I picked him up. He gets in the cab, and he says, where do you want to go? And he says, I want some action. And I said, well, what kind of action are you looking for? And he says, I'm looking for booze and I'm looking for women. I took him to the Boston Combat Zone, where all the strip clubs used to be. Probably a friend had told me about it. I don't recall how I knew where it was. But I started talking to him, being at 10 o'clock in the morning. I says, what do you do? And he says, I'm a merchant mariner. I says, what's that? He says, I'm a sailor. I work on ships. I says, oh, do you like it? Is it interesting? And he goes, oh, yeah, it's interesting. Well, I took him to the Boston Combat Zone, and when we got there, he gave me a $5 tip for a mere $5 fare, which impressed me again in 1975. So it begat yet another question from myself. How would someone like I get involved in the Merchant Marine? He gave me an address. I wrote away to it, but I never heard anything back from him. A few months later, my brother Michael was getting out of high school, and he had gone down to Massachusetts Maritime Academy. And he told me, they don't really shave your head. They don't really do that. And they don't, wear uniforms all the time. It's not that bad. You don't do calisthenics or wake up early in the morning. You basically didn't have to endure the rigors of discipline like Navy enlistees do. So I enrolled. Upon entry in the academy, I learned many things. But the first thing I learned was that my brother thought lying to me was funny. However, with shorter hair and significantly more discipline, I took to the sea for the first time, and I was hooked. I knew that's what I wanted to do. I graduated in 1979, and I spent the next 12 years sailing all the oceans and going to all the continents, working on various types of ships and gaining the experience necessary to take the test to raise my license to an unlimited United States Merchant Marine captain's license. In 1991, I became a captain. Like a lot of captains, I worked 90 days on and then spend 90 days at home. And as you can imagine, this creates quite a different type of home life than many of my neighbors and indeed many of you. For example, how many have you said to your spouse, honey, we got to make a decision here. I got to be back to work in January. Or when I go to sea, I give my wife a honey-do list. And when I return, she hands it back to me with more on it. Of course, it does have its advantage. While many people deal every day with morning rush hour and afternoon traffic, I roll out of the rack or I climb a ladder and I'm at the office. Well, now you know a little bit about my background. Let me give you the three major points we'll share with you today. They are not just based on my encounter with pirates, but they're also from my experience as a floating CEO, if you will, of a ship, of a 17,000-ton ship, managing a highly diverse crew while navigating constantly changing and challenging seas. The 3 points I want you to know are, first, you are much stronger than you even know or realize. Second, the only time when all is lost is when we choose to quit. And third, a dedicated, motivated professional team can overcome most any obstacles or solve most any problem. Let's begin our voyage. But first, people often ask me if there's anything different about this voyage than the multitude of others that I'd taken throughout the years. As I was going to work, my wife was driving me. She's an emergency room nurse, and we were running late. So she had to drop me off in front of the airport as I was going to work, because she had to get to the hospital. And part of my later motivation to survive at a later time in the voyage was based on my concern that my wife would say to herself, why didn't I go in the airport as I've always done? I was worried that she would replay that casual moment infinitely in her mind if I didn't make it back. Well, anyway, after flying halfway around the globe, I joined the crew of the Maersk, Alabama on March 31st in Salalah, Oman. I went through all the procedures necessary and customary to turn the ship over from one captain to another, and then the next day we got underway for Djibouti. During our first full working day, I really focused on one of the things I believe a key leader must do. Hope for the best, but plan for the worst. As a leader, I'm not certainly interested in seeing anyone on my team fail. However, if we are going to be unsuccessful, I truly want it to be in a practice or drill or training situation and not while the real thing is facing us. When things are going fine, it's certainly easy to get complacent, what on ships we call fat, dumb, and happy. Feeling satisfied is usually a precursor to a problem's not yet seen. A lot of times solving those small problems will keep us from facing the big crises we sometimes have to face. What will be the worst thing that could happen for our company, for my ship, for your division? What would be how would you prepare yourself for it? What can you do? Have we even considered what that is? What's the best thing that could happen to our divisions, to our companies? Have we thought what it will take us to get us there? I truly believe that everyone on ships and in companies must ask these questions. Back on the ship, pirate activity in our area was on the rise. I had always told my crew an attack was a matter of when, not if. But I thought if we were prepared, we had procedures, we had plans in place, we would do okay. In this slide here, I'm showing you that this is a slide of piracy attacks from 2008 through 2010. And I'd just like to show this slide to show you the extent that the pirates are working. That green line you see is 1,000 miles off Somalia. As you can see, it was a very busy period for the pirates, and they were very successful. One of the things I first noticed when I took over as captain of the ship, that security was kind of lax. So I decided that after a couple days, we'd have an unannounced surprise drill to see how we were doing. As a captain, I'm only required to do these drills quarterly, but as I said, it's better to plan for the worst. As a captain, I also believe it's highly important to be creative in these situations. Training will get us through what we've seen before or experienced before. Creative approaches and imagination will help you prepare for what you've yet to encounter. Well, at 9 a.m., I'm on the bridge, and I tell my bridge team, my navigation team, that there's a small boat 100 yards away with 4 armed men coming at us in a hostile manner. I don't know what other manner they could come at us. But the drill, it lasted about 10, maybe 15 minutes, and the critique where everyone gets together and talks about their problems or comes up with remarks or has ideas or has suggestions lasted 3 times that long, and that was normal for us. For example, some people didn't know what a piracy or security attack signal was. Some didn't know how to physically sound it on the alarm panel. Doors that should have been locked, like the door to the engine room, certainly doesn't seem like it caused a big ship like ours any problem, but these doors weren't locked. They were left open. We'd forgotten. We also generated a few other ideas. One of them was a backup safety room, and then we made sure everyone knew about our non-duress password or safe word. So we pretty much all got onto the same page. And we talked it through, and we all, as I said, got on the same page and had an idea of what to do. Well, everybody but this guy I'll call Cliff. Remember Cheers? The guy on Cliff, the guy with vast years of experience and much arcane wisdom, but little common sense. There's one in every organization. I had one on my ship. There was some grumbling about the drill. Doesn't it always seem to be that way about training or drills? But a few days later, 4 days later, everybody in the crew was real happy that we'd planned for the worst. Now, picture, if you will, the vastness of the sea and the darkness of that very night. And we hear a voice coming over our ship's VHF radio saying, "Somali pirate, coming to get you. Somali pirate, coming to get you," sounding very, very eerie. This is what we heard the night before the incident. And this picture here is actually a picture taken of that very day. And the biggest facet of any pirate attack is the conditions, the environment, the weather. And in this picture, you can see there was very little swell running, hardly any wind, and the sea was like a mirror. It was a perfect day for a pirate attack. As a matter of fact, the chief mate and I were having coffee on the bridge at 6:30 in the morning, and we both said the same thing. We can't wait till that monsoon changes. Well, anyway, about next morning, about 06:45, one of my crew spots a small wooden boat with a high-powered motor on the aft end, coming on fast, about 21 knots, astern of us, a little over 3 miles. We changed course. They changed course. We maneuvered, and they execute and mirror that same exact maneuver. It's pretty obvious what's happening here. We're in the area of the Indian Ocean where other ships have been taken by Somali pirates. The ships have been held for ransom, and the crews held as hostages, some tragically killed. We understand the severity of the situation, and the mood of my crew ranges from highly concerned to blatantly terrified. We get on our ship's satellite telephone, and we call the Piracy Center, which we learn later is an apartment in Dubai, United Arab Emirates, manned by 3 British guys. They call somebody else who calls somebody else a piracy clearinghouse, if you will. The 3 British guys give us lots of great advice. We have 4 pirates with weapons bearing down on us, and they're asking us questions like, are you sure it's not a fishing boat? Well, I'm thinking not unless they're shooting the fish, probably not. Now the pirates are 2 miles away. We start getting the flares ready, ensuring the doors that should be locked are indeed locked. We start accounting for some of the crew who are already up and working on deck at that time. By the time they're 1 mile away, most of the crew is up. We sound the signal for the alarm, security signal. We start getting the crew positioned and ready so they can be mustered and get into the safe room. At a half mile away, where the flares are ready, the fire hoses are flowing and going over the side, the pirates keep coming closer, and the third mate starts shooting flares at them, trying to give them a hard problem. We're shooting flares at them, trying to see if we can catch their boat on fire, and pretty soon I'm shooting flares at them also. Earlier I mentioned that the first of the 3 points is that we are all stronger than we even realize, and it was at this point of my adventure with the pirates that this came into play. You see, now the pirates are shooting at me too, and I can hear the ping, ping, ping of the semi-automatic weapons they're firing from the boat. It's the pirates' bullets making dents in the stack, the house in the hull of the ship. Now, my training as a merchant marine officer, as opposed to someone, say, in the military, didn't really include training for dodging automatic weapons fired by pirates. So when faced with a threatening situation, somewhere within us, we will find the strength. And while I was the one who had to realize that on that day, I'm just as confident that you would have and could have done the same. On the ship, we continue evasive maneuvers, but we can't shake them. They come up alongside of the ship. One of the pirates is sitting in the back of the boat, firing his AK-47 up me as I'm popping and going up and down off the wind dodger, firing flares at them, as another pirate takes the ladder, this big, beautiful white ladder, raises it, comes alongside, and as we're doing evasive maneuvers, they hook it onto this fish plate. But this time, it's just me, the third mate, and an AB on the bridge. The rest of the crew is hidden below decks in the safe room. The chief engineer and engine team are in the engine room in the aft steering, where they can take control of the ship by bypassing the bridge. And because of our drill and training the few days before, the doors that should have been locked were locked. We've prepared for the worst, and even while the best has yet to happen, we're as ready as we can be. One by one, the 4 Somali pirates climb up the side of the ship. I don't know if they all planned to come aboard when they planned their mission. My guess is they didn't exercise the precise procedures that we had. In fact, I'm pretty certain they had not gone through significant training for their mission. I know this because their boat got damaged, overturned, they lost their ladder, and both started sinking pretty quickly. You don't have to know, you don't have to be a sailor to know that a sinking boat is never a positive development on the high seas. However, now the 4 Somali pirates are all aboard the Maersk Alabama, and they believe they have no way off the ship, and I believe this has made them even more desperate. And this began a slippery slope for 12 or 13 hours on the Maersk Alabama with the 4 pirates of cat and mouse, hide and seek, and Simon Says on a 508-foot ship. And unfortunately, we've become part of history. I'm the captain of the first United States ship since the 1800s attacked and boarded by pirates. And I do not consider this a good thing. In spite of all this, I've got to say the pirates were a happy group at first. Why? They had found out that we were a United States ship, a U.S. flag ship. They even started high-fiving each other on the bridge because they thought they were in for a big payday from a rich American steamship company, at least. That's what they thought. At sea, we can never count on anybody riding to the rescue. At sea, we can't pass the buck. Unless you yourself take action, a fire can be a disaster. A deep laceration can be a death sentence. A storm can be a catastrophe. You've got to be able to take emergency situations head on, whether it's a broken bone or a pirate attack. The pirates were happy at first, like I said, and they made nice with us, but they soon discovered that they had this one big problem. There was only the 3 of us on the bridge, myself, my AB, and my mate, And they couldn't find anybody else in the crew. And the Maersk, Alabama was now no longer moving. We were drifting. We were dead in the water. They told me to make the ship go. I said, I can't make it go. They said, make the ship go or we'll shoot you. And I had to be strong enough to convince them that their problems were their fault, not mine. They're getting madder. Where's the crew? Where's the crew? They'd constantly query me. And I'd say, I don't know where they are. I'm here with you. I don't know where they are. Then it was, order the crew to come up here to the bridge, or we'll shoot you and the two crew who were on the bridge at that time. I did what I was told, and thanks to the security drill we'd done a few days earlier, most of the crew was aware that if I didn't say the non-duress password or the safe word, everybody knew to stay in hiding, like an adult game of Simon Says. If I didn't say that safe word, everybody knew to stay in hiding. Well, almost everybody. There was shortly afterwards a knock on the bridge door. The pirates didn't hear it. I was hoping that whoever it was would go away. And they knocked again on the bridge door. Remember Cliff? The guy who never gets the memo? It's him. So now there are 4 pirates with myself and 3 of the crew on the bridge. After a while, the pirates have me lead them through the ship on 4 different occasions. Where are they? Where are they? They constantly queried me. I said, I don't know. I'm here with you. I don't know where they are. We would go through the ship, a real Marie Celeste type moment. We would go through rooms and see the quarters with bed sheets thrown on the deck, clothes thrown haphazardly, doors left ajar. We'd go down to the galley and we'd see the coffee steaming and ready. We'd see the melons cut up and ready to eat. We'd go in the galley and see the bacon already cooked for the breakfast that would never be. It was very eerie. They then took one of my sailors below deck to find the rest of my crew. And when that pirate takes the sailor below deck, my sailor and my crew take action. They take responsibility, and they grab him, the leader, as a hostage. So now there are just 3 pirates on the bridge with 2 of my crew. This dance goes on for about 12 or 13 hours. They threaten me, demand information. They keep asking me, where's the crew? Where's their leader? I don't know where they are. I'm here with you, was my reply. They get more and more worried about the pirate who's missing, their leader, and the Maersk, Alabama keeps drifting. Throughout this whole process, I'm very clear about my responsibility, protect my crew and my ship, and I'm trying to slow things down to try and get back control that I had lost when the pirates boarded, to try and take action to do just that. I discover strength in me that I really wasn't sure as I had, as I grow in pride about my crew and the strength and resistance that they are displaying. So we keep talking, the pirates, myself and my crew, and we come up with a solution. I'll get them off the Maersk, Alabama, then we'll come back, we'll exchange their leader for me, and then they can sail on their way. As it turned out, the rescue boat broke down, so we ended up getting on to the lifeboat. Now this is one of the pleasures where part of my talk where I get to clear up some of the things the media got wrong. I didn't surrender myself as a hostage or some kind of sacrificial, heroic, fatted calf. I believe that my major responsibility was to get those pirates off my ship. I knew if I went with them, they could never get back. They had lost their ladder in their boat. That meant my crew, the ship, my cargo, my responsibility would be free and clear. And despite everything that I had learned in my training to be a captain, that I should have been the last person off the ship, I believe that the best way that I could protect my crew, my ship and cargo, and ironically myself, the best thing that I could do was to get these pirates off the Maersk, Alabama. In your business, you have been trained in a similar method or way of acting that doesn't always work for some situations you may find yourself in. One of the things all of us must do is to ascertain if the training will fit into this current contemporary situation. Is it the right thing to do? We cannot solve new problems with old solutions. just like you have to adapt to stay ahead of the curve of new technology, new business practices, and opportunities. On the ship, we have to stay ahead of the pirates. They're changing threats. They're evolving threats. I bet at times you wish it was only just 4 pirates following you. Somehow I knew that was the best course of action, was to get these pirates off my ship. The fact is, without the assistance of one crew member, they couldn't get off the Maersk Alabama. I decided that that crew member would be me. The deal was I would get them underway, we'd get off, and then we'd come back alongside, make the exchange for the leader. We'd agree their attempt had failed, and they could sail off to Somalia. In all honesty, I knew there was a chance they might keep me, but if they did, I'd only be responsible for one guy, me, and I liked, instead of all my crew, and I liked the odds with just me. I've always considered myself a lucky guy, not especially intelligent, brave, or all that, but I liked the odds with just me. So for me to leave my ship and get on the boat, Lifeboat, with the pirates, it wasn't surrender, nor was it something that I view as an act of heroism. It was my strategy, my action plan. It was my duty. And that's the way it played out. I helped them get off the Maersk Alabama. They got their missing guy, the leader, back, and then they didn't let me go. It's another lesson I learned. Never trust a pirate. Yeah, it was a disappointment. No one would want to be stuck in a small enclosed lifeboat on the Indian Ocean with 4 armed Somali pirates. Although I've got to say, I love seeing the expression on these 4 pirates' faces when all the lights of the Maersk Alabama came on, the stacks started spewing smoke. The crew that these pirates couldn't find were now yelling at them from the main deck and talking to them on the radio in the boat. And it was the ship that didn't work was now underway and following us in the lifeboat. To say the least, the pirates were not happy about this, and they would take their displeasure out on me, but my crew, my ship, and my cargo was safe. And that's how I wound up on the lifeboat with the pirates. The configuration of the lifeboat is a center aisle with 2 seats on each side of the center aisle. It has a canopy over the whole lifeboat, and it has a hatch on the after end, a vertical hatch. And then on the forward end, it has a horizontal, a sailboat hatch. Up near the windows is the coxswain or control area where you steer and control the boat. A majority of the time, the pirates would always have 2 guys by the stern hatch door on each side, each with guns facing me. One guy would be at the forward end by the forward hatch, and the 4th guy would be on the control area or the coxswain, where you controlled the boat. And they'd all just spend their time watching me. They had radios so they could talk to the Maersk Alabama and later to the Navy when they showed up. And there was one other unbearable thing for me. It was unbearably, indescribably hot, and that was probably the worst thing for me. During the first day, the pirates actually broke out 2 windows to try and get a breeze in there, but it didn't help. I really hate the heat, anything more than 80 degrees, and I'm hurting. It was like being in a sauna for 12 or 15 hours a day. I was also convinced there was no way anybody could ride to the rescue. I did the mental math and figured the Navy was just too far away. However, I vowed I would not give up. If I gave up, I realized then I truly would become nothing but a hostage, just something they could ransom for money or murder for notoriety. If I didn't give up, I could play mind games with them just as they were playing with me. I would be their adversary instead of their hostage or a passenger. I thought I could create a way to escape. I knew the Maersk Alabama was going to trail us for a while, so I called them over the radio. I still had a handheld radio, and told them, if you see a splash, that's me coming out the back door. Come and get me. As it turned out, I didn't have a chance to escape that first day. I had to wait till early in the morning of April 10th. At about 1 or 2 in the morning, one of the 2 pirates from the aft hatch gets up and walks to the forward end of the boat. He lies down, and pretty soon I can hear what sounds like 2 guys snoring up forward. The guy who's at the coxswain or the control position, he's sort of nodding and dozing like he's at a bad movie. I'm thinking I can get by him. I thought I was on my own, and this was another part of being a successful leader of any type comes into play, being flexible. On a ship, every voyage and crew is different, so I had a lot of experience in making changes and adjustments and being flexible, something I'm sure we all have to do. On that lifeboat, I knew I had to do the exact same thing, and my plan was pretty simple. Wait for the right moment and jump off that lifeboat. I'm trying to be flexible. All of a sudden, the lone pirate by the aft hatch gets up, and he goes out and stands on a platform on the after end of the boat. I don't know what he was doing. I can remember thinking to myself, what in the heck is he doing? Maybe some of you have already guessed, even pirates have to go to the bathroom. But for me, there was another lucky fact in his call of nature. There's no really refined or delicate way to explain it other than to say that this pirate is one of those guys who uses two hands. It's very important to me. It meant he had to put down his weapon. Well, I'm thinking two sleeping, one dozing and nodding, one heeding nature's call. I'm not going to get a better chance. So I stretch my legs, stand up, take two strides, get out the hatch, go out the other side of the hatch, push the pirate, had to do it twice, and he goes into the water screaming, and I dive into the water to swim away. Unfortunately, his screams awaken the other three sleeping pirates, and the full moon is silhouetting myself in the water, and they come after me in the lifeboat. I actually dive under the lifeboat and come up on the other side away from them, and I can hear their footsteps, and they're yelling as they're trying to find me. It's very difficult to see somebody in a lifeboat when you're on the deck. It's hard to see somebody in the water, so I would listen to their footsteps and their yelling and dive under the boat and come up on the other side away from the noise. I'm listening to their footsteps, and about the fourth time I dive under and come back up on the other side of the boat when, unfortunately, one of the pirates was right there. He had his AK-47. He fired once, and then I made a quick adjustment to my plans. Okay, you got me. They took me back on board the lifeboat, and they were not happy I didn't follow the proper procedures. Punches to the head, slaps to the knee, whacking me with the pistol and the AK-47, hitting me and trussing me up so tight I have some numbness and scars today. They were irate. They were yelling and screaming. They were mad. But it's amazing what happens when you refuse to give up. I don't know why it works that way. I just know that it does. When you vow that you won't quit, sooner or later, something will happen to make your situation better. For not long prior to my ill-fated escape attempt was when the Navy showed up. Blowing sirens, helicopters overhead, spotlights, PAs, startled me, and I'm sure the pirates too. And from that point on, the pirates were in constant contact with the Navy, although I really don't know what the negotiations were going on. It was good to see the Navy boats come alongside the lifeboat. But I was still stuck in stifling heat, now with my hands bound so tight they were starting to swell up like balloons, and with four guys with guns on me. It was that night after the Navy got there that the atmosphere in the boat drastically changed. The pirates, in a display of their Muslim faith, started incantations back and forth to one another. And then the leader gave the pistol, to one of his guys and said, "You do it." The guy went behind me, and he started a mock execution with a gun to my head. And the next thing I knew, I heard what I thought was a shot, a loud bang, and I have blood coming down my face, but I'm still alive. Later, they told me, "Oh, we didn't shoot you. We just hit you in the head with the pistol." And I said, "Oh, well, thanks, guys. That's much better." From then on, I knew that whenever they closed the hatches, something bad was going to ensue. And the way I survived that was by meeting yet another and sometimes most important challenge of being a leader of any kind, staying calm. I don't think anyone ever solved a problem at sea by losing their wits, so I had plenty of practice at staying calm. It seems that sometimes people assume the motivation necessary for never giving up means some kind of wildly enthusiastic behavior, yet I don't think it's possible to persevere when you're panicked. I worked at staying calm. when the pirates staged that scene with the ritual incantations and a mock execution with a gun to my head 2 more times. I know now that they were playing mind games with me. They were trying to get me to give in to themselves, trying to give up my position as their adversary and truly become their hostage. During that last session, the guy sat behind me with the gun pointed at my head, and the gun went click, click, click. I lost count after about 75 times, and this went on for about an hour or 2. During this incident, I finally yelled at them, "Hey, would you idiots get someone back there who can shoot that damn thing?" It may all have been mind games, but I truly didn't see a good ending happening for me. I wasn't going to give up hope, but I didn't see a good ending coming. I assumed that they were going to kill me. There was a part of me that believed I was going to die. And in the lifeboat, there was a structure that forms a cross, and I would focus on that. And I would mentally settle the affairs in my mind. I went through the memories of my family. I said something to my wife, my son, my daughter. And while I've always said that if I could look back in my life and laugh a time or two, that would be the sign of a good life. And I believe I've been blessed with a good life already, but I would have preferred a different ending. I realized that I never prayed for rescue. Instead, I prayed for strength and patience. I asked God to give me the strength and patience to deal with my situation the best I could, that I would have enough strength to never give up and patience to know when to try the next escape. For as long as you don't give up, you still truly do have a chance. When you're trying to stay calm, a little faith does help. The fake executions were just one of the things they were doing just to mess with my mind. They spent untold hours upon hours having me tie and untie knots. They were always telling me how inferior American sailors were to Somali sailors. They were constantly reminding me that my family would miss me when I died, as if it was a foregone conclusion, and that they were actually working for my company and working for the United States Navy, and they were just checking my security on the ship out. And we even had this conversation when we got to Somalia. One of the pirates would take me to the movies and have me meet his girlfriend's mom, sort of a double date. It really made me upset, made me mad, but it made me even more determined to stay calm and not give them the satisfaction of me giving in to them. I would not give up. As long as I was in the game, I felt I had a chance. This went on in intense heat for 3 more days. My world was pretty much the inside of the lifeboat and what I could see out that aft hatch. I could see the Navy a few times, and they came by in boats a few times to eye me for signs of life, give us some food or water or radio batteries. But I was still stuck in stifling heat with my hands bound. I could see that by Saturday afternoon, the presence was starting to spook them, the Navy's presence to the pirates. I think that's why the leader, the guy they have in federal penitentiary in the United States now, decided to leave. He was the smartest guy, and somehow he had figured the odds had turned against him. I think he had bailed on his buddies, given up, quit. Obviously, there was a lot I didn't know. I didn't know a lot about the negotiations that were going on between the Navy and pirates. And I knew the USS Bainbridge had taken the lifeboat under tow, but I didn't know why. All I knew was that I wasn't going to give up. I was troubled, and my wife would always say to herself, why didn't I walk him inside the airport as I've always done? I vowed I would never give up. I might die on that boat, but it would be because the pirates had decided to take my life, not because I was going to quit and give it up. The 3 pirates remaining on that lifeboat that Easter Sunday were worried about their leader. He had told me he went out to check working for the U.S. Navy, he went out to check a Pakistani blue tug and wanted to make sure that they were all right. What he was really doing was going to the U.S. Navy and getting negotiations underway and also getting some medical care for his hand. But Easter Sunday was really a tough day on the boat. The 3 pirates aboard were very mad at me. They were screaming and swearing and cussing at me, and they were also arguing and swearing at each other. later that afternoon, I had got badly dehydrated. Many times they wouldn't give me water, and I was badly dehydrated that day, and they actually were worried about me, and they gave me some water, and after I drank about a gallon of water, I started feeling better. I was starting to get a little heat prostration, and I think they sensed it. They undid the bindings on my wrists, so my hands were now wrists, and I could loosen up my wrists and start getting feeling in them. I did that, and then I bent over and undid the lines on my feet and freed my feet up. I suddenly stood up and said I would not take them anymore, and I was just going to jump in the water and get cool. They started yelling at me, "Sit down, get in your seats, sit down." Then I told them that I'm out of here, and then I gave them very basic instructions on what they could do to themselves. Well, one pirate grabbed me around the waist, one around the leg, and I took one, maybe two steps forward in the lifeboat when all of a sudden the youngest one with the wild Charlie Manson eyes, I called him, shot an AK-47 in the air. It's unbelievable how loud in a small enclosed place that it truly sounded, and I got to be well acquainted with the sound of an AK-47 by then. I stopped and did as they told me, and I actually sat back down in my seat. However, I think that shot scared the pirates as much as it scared me. From outside, we heard, "What's going on in there? What's the problem?" It was the U.S. Navy, an American voice. The two guys in front started yelling at the pirate in back, "What did you do? What did you do?" You see, they were worried about how the United States Navy would react. I was their shield as well as their hostage. And if I had died, there was nothing to keep the U.S. Navy from storming and attacking and killing the pirates and taking the lifeboat back. But as long as I was alive, however, they thought the United States Navy would do absolutely nothing. I'm still drained and I'm still fed up, so I'd actually turned to lie down in that center aisle, and I'm facing forward in the lifeboat, and I'm seeing the two taller pirates run up to the forward hatch to allay the Navy, saying, "Relax, relax, no problem, no problem." The third pirate went back in the coxswain position, and he's up by the windows, and that's when I heard the shots, and I dove down in my seat as low as I could go. To be honest, I thought it was the three pirates shooting at each other from each end of the lifeboat, because they'd been mad at each other all day and had been very vehement in the names they were calling each other. So I thought I was caught in a crossfire of three pirates from each end of the boat, and I'm yelling, "What the heck are you guys doing?" There were a bunch of shots, not just the three you heard about in the media. The SEALs told me later that they kept on firing into the boat because they were afraid if they did miss one of the pirates, the pirate would come to me and take me out. So they kept firing into the boat. They knew exactly where I sat, so they were able to avoid me and shoot around me. It seemed like it went on for a long time, but it was probably only 1 or 2 seconds. I had gotten sprayed with debris in my face. When I picked my head up, the pirate who was in a coxswain position wound up behind me on the deck. And he was still alive, although I could tell he didn't have long to live. Then there was silence. After days of constant taunting, heat, and torture, there was just nothing. Finally, a voice says, "Are you all right?" An American voice. And then he came down through the forward hatch. It was a U.S. Navy SEAL who slid down the tow rope and landed on the lifeboat. Even then, it really wasn't until I got the Navy rib boat and was alongside the Bainbridge being hoisted up to the main deck that I realized that I made it. I'm alive. I'm safe. The real heroes of this story are those U.S. Navy SEALs who risked their lives to save mine. The dedication they have to each other and the precision in which they execute their missions proves beyond any doubt that a dedicated, motivated professional team that comes together, united to solve a problem, can solve most any problems. We have something in common, you and I. We both constantly face challenge and change, whether it's on the seas I encounter as the captain of a ship or the changing seas of business and economy that you face. We're all riding on ever-shifting waves, and let me tell you from experience, you're better off to face that with a trained, committed crew than all by yourself alone. Let's face it, there's really only one simple reason I'm here today, with just one thing that allowed me to continue to spend time with my family and friends for the great privilege of addressing you, a team of committed professionals who did what it took to accomplish their mission. And this has important lessons for us. These aren't easy times. They're changing. They're tough. They're challenging and changing. Yet I have faith in you. See, I know from experience that you are stronger than even you realize. You can do more than you think you can. And if you commit yourself to see it through and refuse to give up, that you can solve most any problems. And as long as you don't surrender in the face of adversity and to unite with your colleagues as a dedicated team, then you too can solve most of your problems. If you will, as the old poet said, just see it through. When you're up against the trouble, meet it squarely face to face. Lift your chin, set your shoulders, plant your feet and take a brace. When it's vain to try and dodge it, do the best that you can do. You may fail, but you may conquer. See it through. Black may be the clouds about you, and your future may seem grim, but don't let your nerves desert you. Keep yourself in fighting trim. If the worst is bound to happen, in spite of all that you can do, running from it will not save you. See it through. Even hope may seem but futile when with troubles you're beset. But remember, you are facing just what other folks have met. You may fail, but fall still fighting. Don't give up whate'er you do. Eyes front, head high to the finish. See it through. Thank you.
Zee Leadership Series.